Good day everyone, good day Philippines. We are now live in Cebu Normal University Million Campus, where you will know, we know, I know. Today we will be talking about one of the macro skill, which is speaking. We have a special guest for today. Her name is Andrea Cinco. Oh wait, she's online now. Hello Andrea, please say hi to the viewers.
Hi everyone, good day. I am Andrea Cinco and I am very honored to be here with you today to do this interview. But so sad that I cannot go at the studio to do this live. But anyways, I am ready to answer your questions. So what are we waiting for? Let's begin.
Okay, Andrea, can you introduce what is speaking?
So we all know that speaking skills are defined as the skills which allows us to communicate effectively. They give us the ability to convey information verbally in a way that the listener can understand. So the goal of teaching speaking skills is communicative efficiency. Learners or the speaker should be able to make themselves understood using their current proficiency to the fullest. They should try to avoid confusion in the message due to faulty pronunciation, grammar, or vocabulary. And it is also to observe social and cultural rules that apply in each communication situation. So when we say communicative efficiency, it's being able to send a message without confusion. So when we say we will try to consider the fluency, the pronunciation, the grammar, and the vocabulary, is because it is to avoid confusion to your listeners. Because mispronunciation and wrong grammar can lead to confusion. And as well as the vocabulary, we also have to consider the communication situation that you are in, or in the environment of your listeners. If it's rightful to use what do we call this very very deep words, or we should just consider to use simple words to make our listeners understand or convey the message that we are trying to send.
Andrea, I have a question. What is the nature of speaking?
The nature of speaking is more like oral communication. I mean, oral communication is a two-way process between the speaker and the listener or listeners, and involves the productive skill of speaking and receptive skill of understanding. It both works. The speaker and the listener have a positive function to perform in oral communication or in any type of communication. In simple terms, the speaker has to encode the message he wishes to convey with the use of appropriate language, while the listener has to listen actively in order to decode the information or to interpret the message what the sender is trying to convey.
What is the purpose of speaking, Andrea? You have mentioned that speaking is a macro skill, so how do you define its purpose?
So speaking has three purposes. It is to inform, to persuade, and to entertain. Informative speeches can focus on objects, people, events, concepts, and processes or issues. It is important to remember that your purpose is an informative speech. It is to share an information with an audience, not to persuade them into doing something or into believing something. Next is we have persuasion. There are two types of persuasion. It is the pure and the manipulative. Speakers who attempt to persuade others for pure reason do because they actually believe in what they are persuading an audience to do or think. Speakers who persuade others for manipulative reasons is to distorting the support for their arguments because they have an ulterior motive in persuading an audience to do or think of something. Lastly is we have entertainment. It is speeches can be after dinner or during ceremonial or inspirational, although they may be informative and persuasive elements to your speech, but your primary reason for your giving the speech is to entertain the audience, to give fun to the audience.
Thank you, Andrea, for your wonderful insights. We'll be continuing our discussion for today. And now we'll be moving on to the different type of speech style and its registers. Now, we will be discussing about the writing styles and how we as a writer or a speaker must choose the appropriate register according to the style of the text. Before we dive into this topic, let's look at the definition first. The term register refers to the various ways people use language based on who they are talking to and their situation. We often talk about register in terms of formality. For example, our word choices, tone of voice, and body language will likely differ in a formal situation, like for example doing interview, compared to informal situations like hanging out with your friends. Here are the types of speech style. The first one is the frozen style. It is used generally in a very formal setting, and it is the most formal communicative style for respectful situations, and it doesn't require any feedback from the audience. It usually uses long sentences with good grammar and vocabulary, and the use of language is fixed and relatively static. One of these examples is the national pledge, anthem, school creeds, marriage ceremonies, speech for a state ceremony, and many more. Example of this is this scenario.
Hi, Anamarie. Hi, Jake. Good morning. Number your Okay, class, fall in line because we will be having a lunch period. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning. Okay, handa out. Bayang magiliw. Bayang magiliw. Alam ng puso sa libu'y buhay, lupang hinirang.
Criminal offense, side at
Nandiyan, yun ang late naman sa ka.
Lagi tayo. Uy, lagi kami may problems na ganda.
Kadaghan ko na lang with this problems.
Problems and dagan na dyan kayo dahil. Hi, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. So, is it okay if I excuse Miss Anagen? Yes, ma'am. Miss Anagen, can you please come with me at the office? Anagen, yes, ma'am. Earlier, I saw you moving during the classroom. And as a sign of respect, when the ceremony starts, you should not move and please next time don't be late, okay? Yes, ma'am. I will not do it again. I'm sorry, ma'am. Yes, it's okay.
Next one is the formal style. It is used in speaking to medium to large groups. It may also be used in single hearer strangers like older person and professional speaker, and it must be framed whole sentences ahead before they are delivered. And it avoids using slang terminology language that is comparatively rigid and has a set. It is agreed upon vocabulary that is well documented, and it is often a standard variety. Wait, there's a caller right here. Do you know Queen Yasmin? Well, best of luck. She is our guest for today and she is delivering a speech. Wanna hear her? Okay, let's answer her call.
3, 2, 1, isopagos. Habang tayo'y kumakain sa pagkainan, syempre, hindi mawawala ang ating isopagos. Dadaloy yan mula sa ating sinapupunan. And I thank you.
Another example of these are meetings, speeches, school lessons, in the court, a corporate meeting, at a swearing ceremony, or an interview, or in a classroom. Another style is the consultative style. It is used in semi-formal communication. It happens in two-way participation, and it is the most operational among other styles. Speaker does not usually plan what he wants to say, and sentences tend to be shorter and has a spontaneous answer. Example of these are regular conversation at schools, companies, group discussion, teacher to student, doctor to patient, expert to apprentice. Here is an example of a scenario.
Good morning, Doc.
Good morning. What's your problem?
Kanang hinay na kayo kung memory, Doc. Ay, pero na ako makalimot.
Mao ba? What's your symptoms? Kanang sara nagsugod?
Ito day ka. Ano sa ko dito ka na ako ari? Tupag nga naman ako ari.
Okay, easy. I'm your doctor. Mao ni mong tambal nga. Don't forget to take it regularly ha. Hindi na mawa imong memory. Here, take this.
The fourth one is the casual style. It is the language used between friends, and it is often very relaxed and focused in just getting the information out. Slangs are quite often used in these instances, and this style is used in an informal situations and language relationship between the speaker and the hearer is also close. Here is an example of a casual style communication.
Grabe, chika parang sa. Okay, day. As in, daghan yung mga celebrities karang mga buwan. Grabe sa day. Sila Bea o Che. Doon na? Yeah, exactly. Alam mo, lagi mo.
Sila sa bato?
Oh,
Yes, yes. Speaking of breakup, nakibuwag pa ba ang uyab ni Andrea sa iyo, ha?
Ha?
Kasi yes, nagbuwag ni Andrea, Jake.
Basta ganun.
Sige,
Oh, Jake, basin. Hi, guys. Hi.
Hi.
Saan yung gusto yan?
Ikaw?
Okay na ba? Hi. Mga plastic.
Abi man ako lain na tong chismisan dili nga ako man rin yung gichismisan. Ikaw, okay ra ka.
Mo, Jake. Mo, Jake.
Sabi na ni mo diba nang pagkain ka.
Si Jake. Kira na, Andrea. Uy, napamag si Jake. Mausin. Hi, Jake.
Another example of these are casual conversation with the family members, group chats, phone calls, and also messages. The fifth one is the intimate style, completely private language used within the family of a very close friends or groups. It uses personal language codes, grammar is unnecessary, and it does not need complete language. Certain terms of endearment, slangs, or expression whose meaning is shared with a small subset of a person to a person. Like for example in this scenario.
Hello, babe? Where are you na? May honey bunch, sweetie punch, pumpy na? Ano ko na 30 seconds late. Sige, bye.
Moving on to the sixth type is the aggressive one, expressing feelings, needs, and ideas at the expense of others, ignoring others' rights in order to support your own. It is defensive or hostile when confronted by others. It often alienates and hurts others, and it can help meet your needs quickly.
Na na kay babae, ha?
How dare you? Kisa man eh.
Friend.
Friend? 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 Yun ang kain anak. Friend?
Di pwede.
Dili! Wait! No!
Jay, can you explain that to me?
O sige, pag-explain mo to. Whatever it is, we're over. Hoy! Kabet!
The seventh one is the passive style. It is a style that is not expressing feelings or needs, and it ignores your own personal rights and allowing others to do so. It defers to others for decision making and in order to avoid tension or the conflict. It often leads to misunderstanding like built-up anger or resentment, and it can be a safer communication option when a conflict may escalate to violence. Like for example in this situation. Andumanan.
Hindi na kasi kung wala ng ano niya kay cheater din niya. Once a cheater is always a cheater. Hindi na mausap.
Sige dahil, mag-comfort ka na, magkuha na pagkaon dahil para mag-comfort ka dahil. Asa mang ganahan? Asa mang ka dahil?
Gusto mo kaboy ko.
Asa man ni sa may ganahan yung kaulon.
Asa mang ka dahil?
Asa man sa may ganahan yung kaulon.
2 hours later.
Mag-ice cream na lang ta?
Sige, mag-ganahan.
Jollibee na lang din yun, Day. Guys.
One eternity later.
Suga na ko ate si Jollibee. Uy!
Ako sa gabi, wala ko kailangan food as well.
Wait, asan ni si Andrea di ay?
Ano siya, mag-CR daw siya. Basta ka mag-uba. Hi guys!
Uy, Day! Anong nangyari siya, Day? Ano ka buwag mo?
Sorry. Marunong chit kay ko doon. Sorry na guys. Please, love lang din ako.
Anong magagawa? Lagi na
Last but not the least, the assertive communication. It is direct, honest communication of thoughts and feelings, respecting the feelings, ideas, and needs of others, while also asserting your own. May not be effective when interacting with individuals that threaten your personal safety, and people often misinterpret the assertive behavior as aggressive one. Most commonly in the Americans, and women are often mislabeled as a result. Like for example in these situations.
What do you need?
Let's talk about what? About you and me. Ganahan ko mag-sorry kay I thought I'm the only one. But, you know, Jay is cheating on me and I thought you're the kabet.
Jake and I have been together for 5 years already. I learned that you just met Jake months ago and how come ako ang kabit?
Because I didn't know. Because you didn't tell me. So, I'm here to say sorry for what I said to you. And, you know, people make mistakes.
I just hope one day when you finally find someone whom you really love, I just hope that it won't happen to you. Because the damage here, it's just so frustrating, it's so draining that you tend to come in a way
That's why
you don't want.
That's why I say sorry to you. Because I didn't know what to happen to you.
I just hope one day it won't happen. That will be all.
Thank you, Andrea.
Let's have the speech accurate. Now let us define first what is a speech accurate. Speech accuracy is a subfield of pragmatics that studies how words are used not only to present information but also to carry out an action. Speech accuracy was developed by John Longshore Austin, a British philosopher. He developed this theory was developed by John Longshore Austin, a British philosopher. He developed this theory in 1975 in his well-known book entitled How to Do Things with Words, and further developed by John Rogers Searle, an American philosopher. It considers the degree to which utterances are said to perform locutionary act, illocutionary act, and perlocutionary act. Now let's talk about locutionary act. Locutionary act is the first component of the speech accuracy that refers to the production of an utterance itself. This includes the selection and arrangement of words, grammar, and pronunciation. Now, I want you to take a look at outside. I want you to describe the sky. Okay, very good. The sky is blue. That is an example of locutionary act. Why? Because we're just simply stating fact. Locutionary act aims to communicate meaning through literary expression, but does not necessarily imply any intention or consequences behind the literal meaning. Now this time, let's talk about the second component of speech accuracy, which is the illocutionary act. So this level of speech act focuses on the speaker's intention and the effect they intend the words to have on the listener. In illocutionary act, it involves understanding the underlying meaning behind the words, such as persuading, warning, apologizing, and promising. An example of illocutionary act is, "Can you pass me the salt?" Sorry. divided the elocutionary act into 5 distinct categories. So the first one is assertive. Assertive involves the speaker making claims or stating proposition about the world. One example of assertive speech act is in a situation wherein an employee is requesting a raise from their boss. The employee might say, I have been working here for 5 years now and have consistently exceeded my targets. I believe I deserve a raise to reflect my contribution to the company. Now, the second elocutionary distinct category is directive. Directive is a type of speech that is attempting to cause someone else to do something. Directive speech act may include orders, requests, and advices. So example of directive speech act can be found in an implicit request. Imagine a situation where a student is in need of help with their studies. Instead of explicitly asking for assistance, the student might say, I'm really struggling with this assignment. Although this statement does not explicitly request help, it is an indirect way of directing the listener to offer an assistance. Okay, so now let's tackle the third category of elocutionary act, which is commissive. Commissive is a type of speech which involves the speaker committing themselves to a future course of action. Commissive may include vows, promises, and agreements. Example of this one is when someone says, I promise to be there on time. So another example of commissive is during a wedding ceremony, the bride and the groom make a commitment to love, honor, and support each other throughout their lives. So now, let's have the fourth category of elocutionary act, which is the expressive. So expressive is a type of speech that allows the speaker to express their psychological states or attitudes towards a particular situation. Expressive may include stating of sorry, condolences, apologizing, and congratulations. An example of this one is when you say thank you to someone who sent you a gift. And another one is when you express your condolences to the bereaved family. And now let's have the fifth category of elocutionary act, which is the declarative. So this speech act create a change in the world or cause something to happen. Declarative includes pronouncement, verdict, and declaration of war and peace. So an example of this one is when a judge says, I hereby declare you guilty. Okay, so now let's move on to the third speech act theory, which is the perlocutionary act. Perlocutionary act focuses on the effect or impact of the speech act on the listener. It considers how the listener understands and interprets the speaker's words and how it influences their thoughts, beliefs, or behavior. An example of this one is when a teacher says, you're an excellent student. To the listener, the perlocutionary act can boost and encourage the student to perform even better. Perlocutionary act emphasizes the power of language to influence and shape the learner's attitudes and emotions. So that's it for speech act theory.
Let's have a quick review about segmentals and suprasegmentals. And now let's talk about first segmentals. Okay, segmentals refers to the individual sounds or phonemes that make up a language speech sounds. These includes consonants and vowels which are combined together to form syllables and words. So therefore, these are essentials in producing sounds or pronouncing the words and syllables correctly in order to avoid misunderstandings. And now let's talk about suprasegmentals. Okay, suprasegmentals refer to aspects of speech that extend beyond individual speech sounds such as intonation, stress, and rhythm. So they play a crucial role in conveying meaning, emphasis, and emotion in spoken language. This means that these are crucial in everyday life because it enables us to understand the statement that has been stated and to know the right emotion that has been used in a specific conversation.
So now I will be talking about the different strategies in teaching speaking. Based on the information I've gathered, the researchers found out that there were 5 strategies used by the teachers in a classroom to improve the speaking skills of the students. So the first strategy that a teacher can do in teaching speaking is first is role play. So this strategy will definitely enhance students' speaking capabilities as they build confidence, for example, through a drama presentation. Aside from that, it gives the students the opportunity to practice improving a range of real-life spoken language in the classroom. So I think this is one of the commonly strategies that a teacher does in the classroom as part of authentic learning, enhancing our speaking skills. So here is an example of a role play. Let's take a look at this video.
Good morning, class. Good morning. Okay, so before we proceed with our main topic for this morning, so let's have a role play first. Now, are you ready?
Yes!
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So, ang iyong buhaton is, magkuhan mo movie gani, wherein magkuha mo sa inyong favorite na line.
In a movie.
Yes, in a movie. Now, I'll give you 5 minutes to think.
A few moments later.
Lights, camera, action!
My God, Candy! Ang tagal-tagal na nun!
Pero yung matagal na yun, nandito pa rin!
It is just one mistake. Isa lang!
Isa, dalawa, tatlo, pareho na yung pumato ka pa rin sa iba!
Lasing ako nun!
Lintik na palusot yan kahit na sika alam mo ang ginagawa mo! Ay, natin mo? Kapalit-palit ba ako? May mali ba sa akin? Bakit ba ako?
No!
Then why?
Okay, all thank you. Wow, that was amazing performance, group 1.
So the second one is drilling. Eliciting means to evoke or draw out. So this strategy can also improve students' vocabulary as they learn new words from the teacher. And that way, students would know proper pronunciation of words using the language, which is very helpful and of course easier to teach. To fully understand what is drilling, I have here one of the examples of how drilling works in the classroom and why it can improve on speaking skills.
So our word of the day is
Debut.
in Bisaya,
Debut.
in English,
Debut.
So the third one is language games. Learning should also include engagement, which also turns into fun. Applying language games in teaching speaking can also help a lot. According to Chen 2002, he pointed out some benefits provided by games in language learning, especially for speaking skills. First, games lead. The teaching process becomes student-centered. More student interaction will lead the classroom teaching process become valuable because each learner has chance to speak and expose their target language ability. Second, games promote communicative confidence that we often assume as the goal of communication in language teaching. Third, games create a meaningful context of language use. Many games activities are created with purpose to reach specific features of target language. Here is an example of language games.
so please raise your right hand and we will have a game or an activity which is called Never Have I Ever. So let us start with Andrea.
Okay, never have I ever faked my sakit sa lawas just to go to the clinic para matulog.
Bombastic side-eye.
Never have I ever nakaigit sa classroom.
Criminal offensive side-eye.
Never have ever napanangin is mag-share yung balik kayo bitbit ng turog.
That's suspicious.
Never have I ever nanunggab og lapis sa classmate pag elementary.
That's weird.
Never I ever na kalibangon sa eskwelahan?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get
so
into
it's
it
my
because they would
turn.
never understand.
Never have I ever nga gidog show ang performance sa
So the fourth strategies that we can integrate in teaching speaking skills is picture describing. Basic technique to hone students' speaking skills is picture describing. In addition, coined by 1995 confirms that picture is a description that gives students an idea and a mind of what something is like. It makes students remember and understand the new vocabulary more easily. Let us take a look at this video.
Okay, so this morning our topic is spoken poetry. So before we proceed with spoken poetry, let's have an activity first. So here's the general instruction of this activity. So I'm going to show you a picture and I want you to make spoken poetry out of this picture, okay? And it should be done by pair.
Pantog, pantog, pantog. Kapag tayo umiihi, syempre, kailangan di mo mapigil ang ihi mo. Syempre, para iwas pa to, para iwas sakit. Syempre, kailangan kapag ihing-ihi ka na, kailangan maghanap ka ng paraan. Hindi yung pipigilan mo yung ihi mo, baka yung pantog. So, the fifth strategies, which is also the last one, is storytelling. You know what? Storytelling has a lot of benefits that the students can be able to get. It can enhance their pronunciation, fluency, vocabulary, and of course their confidence. It might be challenging, especially for those students who are not fond of this kind of activity. However, this will lead students to also discover their fullest potential. So for those who doesn't know about storytelling, let us watch this.
Hello everyone, do you want to hear a story? Once upon a time in a faraway land, there was a princess who lost her way out. But then, she met a prince who saves her from the wicked witch. And when they came back in the castle, they finally married each other and they live happily ever after. The end.
In every learning process, there is an assessment to measure how far your ability is. Assessments in teaching, speaking typically involves evaluating students' ability to communicate orally, focusing on aspects like pronunciation, fluency, grammatical accuracy, vocabulary usage, and overall coherence. The methods could include oral exams, presentations, role-playings, informal discussions, and etc. In this part, we will focus on the different assessments of teaching speaking based on Brown 2004. According to Brown, there are 5 different types of speaking assessment. First, we have the imitative speaking. It is repeating a small stretch of language and focusing on pronunciation. Students simply parrots back or imitate a word, phrase, or sentence. This is usually used in primary school wherein the students will repeat whatever the teacher says. For example, the repeat after me activities of the teacher. When the teacher says, repeat after me, apple, then the students will also say, apple. It is somewhat an imitation of students wherein they are just starting to build their knowledge in pronouncing the words. Next, we have the intensive speaking. Intensive speaking surpasses imitation. It includes any speaking performance to practice phonological or grammatical forms. In other words, students practice intensive speaking by focusing on words or sentences instead of one specific sound. This type of performance can be practiced either individually or in pairs. This is one step beyond the imitative speaking. In this case, students will comprehend the meaning and it is more significant than the sounds. Competency in this level is achieved through achieving a certain grammatical or lexical mastery. According to Brown, in designing tasks for intensive speaking performance, speakers should promptly give short stretches of discourse showing their linguistic abilities at a particular level of language. we have the responsive speaking. It simply means having a short dialogue. Simply put, responsive speaking takes the form of responding to students and teachers' questions and comments. It does not extend to long dialogue as it only offers replies to the teacher's questions, short replies. So, students' participation is mainly responsive. This usually happens during oral recitations, wherein you will only answer questions that are specifically asked to you. It is somewhat a very limited level of a very short conversation, standard greetings, small talks, simple comments, and the request and the likes. In short, it is simply making a very short conversation, and it involves students to speak promptly. The tasks involved in these assessments are question and answer and eliciting instructions and directions. Fourth, we have the interactive speaking. In interactive speaking, we have two types, the transactional and interpersonal dialogue. Transactional dialogue carried out for the purpose of conveying or exchanging specific information. Transactional dialogue is more of like a business thing. You can talk to people you're not close with for the sake of getting specific information. For example, in business, you're negotiating your products to your customers, and in the classroom, like talking to your teacher, asking for information about certain topic. Whereas in interpersonal dialogue, instead of transmitting facts and information, it tends to maintain a social relationship, and it involves the students to use the language in real context. So the tasks involved in interactive speaking are interviews, conversations, and discussions, and arriving at consensus or problem solving. Last, we have the extensive speaking. It is a monologue. It envelops storytelling, giving long speeches or oral presentations. Interaction between listener and speaker is minimal. The register is frequently formal. Usually, extensive speaking tasks involve complex, relatively lengthy stretches of discourse. Intermediate and advanced learners are highly requested to use this kind of assessment. Teachers will ask the students to create a whole discourse. An example of these are role-playings, reportings, news broadcastings, and it also involves storytellings and giving long speeches. Other tasks involved in this assessment are speeches, picture-cued storytelling, retelling a story, or news events.
Now let's have an activity. This activity is called Act Me Out. Students will be divided into 5 groups, and they will be given 10 minutes to search on the internet famous movie lines. Each group will present the lines they choose, and we will also provide strips of paper containing different emotions on how they will portray that lines. For the grading, Group 1 will be graded by Group 2, Group 2 will be graded by Group 3, and so on and so forth. The rubrics for this activity is delivery 15%, content 10%, and audience impact 5%, a total of 30%. In delivery, it is how well the presenter portrays the lines through his or her assigned emotions. For the content, how they choose the lines well. And for the audience, how it impacts the audience. Are they amazed or hooked by their performance?